the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Sammy Gyamfi and a communication officer at the National Democratic Congress na on Dr. Bernard Okoe a Minister of Health ekokoshia good evening Ghana so na and Sammy Gyamfi ekokopie mu ho de na list by na oshase NDC amanyekuo no epen so prices of goods and services okoto emo a na emo bo okoto ebi antos anase anwa ne bo na all listing one after the other say NDC NPP amanyekuo betena akonyan so isa nyama we nyina price cost boom enya asem koto na dien na edi adanse say yeti ye de ma Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia a ono nso ema nyama ne price entimi enkosoro enka ona no na Dr. Bernard Okoe nso amfa nche no enyoma ne hu se ampa nyenko ti Dr. Bernard Okoe.
There's something I've observed about this government. There are some projects that were like white elephants before we came, and for some good reason they've all started to see life. They are coming back to life, and it's one of the surest indicators that you have a government that is up and doing. The president mentioned the STEM, the one issue, one factor, and all that. Now, I would like to take my presentation from this angle. This president gave his penultimate state of the nation. In fact, strictly speaking, is the last one. I'll put it, because the next time he delivers the other one, we would have known whether you have a new government, like you have an extension or a breaking the eight of this government or a new one from the opposition. Before he became president, some 7+ years ago, Doc, what was happening in this country? We had a Ghana, in fact, and I've said it here, I'll repeat it. The reason why NPP's manifesto for 2016 was change an agenda for jobs was only one thing, Doc, because the national security reports, the intelligence reports, the feedback from the grounds all pointed to the fact that the biggest problem in Ghana under 8 years of Mills Mahama was unemployment. And so the manifesto theme for the New Patriotic Party confronted head-on the biggest problem Ghana was facing as at 2016 when we were going into the election. And remember, at the time when unemployment was the biggest, later the results of the 2016 election showed that what we picked from national security and the grounds was true. JM didn't lose by more than 1 million votes by accident. The unemployment, the frustration in the system, the suffering, the struggling industrial sector because of unavailability of power or instability in the power situation, all were true, evidenced by the results in the elections. This is the Ghana Akufo-Addo inherited from John Dramani Mahama, who had been president and co-president for 8 years. Growth of the economy was declining. How do you call it? Growth was declining. Fiscal deficit, which is one of the indicators of prudence and primary balance, was in a worse situation. In fact, I have the figures here. When you check, Ghana's trade balance was in the negative for 3-4 straight years under JM. What it basically meant is that what came to us as forex was less compared to what we had to use to buy or purchase services and goods. Any country that has a negative trade balance, a negative primary balance, will struggle to keep an economy that brings relief to the people and creates opportunities. And that's why under JM, unemployment was the biggest item in this country. This is the economy Akufo-Addo inherited 7 years ago. Akufo-Addo inherited a Ghana that could not afford to pay allowances for nurses, let alone dream of paying for the fees of kids, over 1 million kids.
Decided or could not afford.
But if you are struggling with allowances and you are saying that it is difficult because of the revenues compared to expenditure, and you were thinking of revoking the allowances, how How can you then?
Was that a reason given by the government?
Oh, the man chair. You were, I mean, how do you call it? I mean, Tommy Bellini. Wait.
Okay, go on.
Wait. They told us that they wanted to take in more nurses. So they wanted to take away the allowance. So that, look, Doc, I've said it and I repeat it. If you've not suffered hunger before, if you've not lived in a family where paying fees is a problem before, you underrate and undermine allowances that cushion people in school. And I mean, I'll mention it. My twin sister was a nurse. I was in medical school. She was getting money every month. I nearly switched from medicine to nursing because life was not easy, man. So these basic arguments like let's expand intake and remove allowance. Who told you it is easy to take out allowance and keep lives intact? And so we had an economy that basically could not sustain paying of allowance. This is the Ghana Akufo-Addo inherited. Akufo-Addo inherited a Ghana that will not keep the lights on for close to 3-4 straight years. Well, the viewer watching lived in Ghana. I was in Ghana. We will not belabor the point. You knew what happened to you before Akufo-Addo came. The calls to your partners at home, whether the lights were on or not. So you prepare your mind. That was the Ghana we were left with. And if you have a country that cannot keep the power on, how can industry grow from a 12-hour economy to a 24-hour economy? We had a Ghana, by the way, by the time JM was checking out, we had gone into an IMF program. And we all have sort of agreed that it is a challenged economy. It is an economy in some difficulty that goes to the IMF, where the interest rates on what you receive is lower than the capital market. So with all this hype, with all these wild comments about the JM, new JM that will get and all that, this JM, after 8 years, actually landed us at an IMF program. That is what the records show and the history shows. But let's now come into the first term of Akufo-Addo. In the first budget statement read by Ken Ofori-Atta, boldly, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo decided and told the nation that we have what it takes to pay the fees of over 200,000 kids annually, and that we cannot wait any other extra year to prepare enough, so-called, before paying for their fees. And by the way, the statistics show that before we came, an average of 100,000 kids qualified for SS but didn't enter. And I'm not surprised because I nearly also didn't enter. It took some loans from ADB to go to PRESEC. So this president sometimes is talked about like some mythical, how do you call it, insensitive boss. But this same Akufo-Addo has paid fees for over 1 million kids so far. Kids who are found in homes in this country. This Akufo-Addo has given us a power availability situation that is better than what JM gave us after 8 years. This same President Akufo-Addo has made it possible for industries and factories to come up. And not only that, if you take a factory like Casapreco, under the 1D, 1F program, there were serious tax exemptions given to Casapreco, which made it possible for Casapreco to acquire a defunct, moribund, dead factory in Tanoso within the Ashanti region. And as we speak, Doctor, there are youth within the Tanoso environs who are on their way to work. Youth that would have been part of the unemployment force if Nana had not stimulated one district, one factory. President Akufo-Addo, before COVID struck, worked hard to make Ghana the #1 destination for foreign direct investment in West Africa. Ghana was the #1. Before COVID struck, Ghana was listed as one of the high-performing economies and shining examples in West Africa. In fact, the first 3 years of Akufo-Addo was directly opposite to the last 3 years of JM. Nana Akufo-Addo recorded a positive trade balance for 3 consecutive years. And I listened to my brother Sammy. He says Akufo-Addo didn't mention unemployment. Man, chair, you don't have to mention the word unemployment to show that you are interested in creating opportunities. The president mentioned 1D, 1F in his speech. Even mentioned that over 170,000 people have been absorbed. It is the opportunities you create that speak to unemployment, not the word itself. If it's a word, I would have called Eugene to keep unemployment in the speech. But it's opportunities. The president spoke about revival of the CAT project, the Confanote Teaching Hospital, a project that has been moribund for the past 40 years. Manche, Bononi, you are to no panonofio. 40 years. Confanote Teaching Hospital.
Can boy question be more biana.
A project that has been moribund for 40 years. JM was in power for 8 years. The CAT project was hanging. It's a big white elephant. It remained so for 8 years. And the Akufo-Addo, it is being built at the cost of about 138 million euros. Revival of projects. These will create jobs. A lot of youth are working. So Akufo-Addo doesn't need to mention the word unemployment. The opportunities you create will speak to employment. The University of Ghana, University of Ghana Sports Stadium. Anytime I pass by and see the stadium, I get inspired that all is not lost for Ghana in terms of hope. Structures that were hanging for years are coming up. It is a sign that you have a government that is working. Look, my brother says that Nana didn't mention corruption. You don't need to use the word corruption to show that you mean business. The president mentioned the judgment.
Okoe.
Oh boy.
Are you seriously saying that after all your analysis, I didn't even want to interrupt you. This national security thing about jobs and unemployment, it happened during President Kufuor's time. That is what led to that thing that was created. The YE or something, yes. That was a national security report. So it was not during Mills Mahama. But then again, you're right. The issue about jobs. That was the campaign promise of the NPP. Are you suggesting that an issue of employment, which is what underpinned President Akufo-Addo's ascendancy to the president, and the fact that we now have a report from the government statistician which tells us that unemployment is at an all-time high. Job creation, employment or unemployment, should not be a standalone subject. I mean, we are able to let naming of airports be standalone. We can remember to specifically mention the naming of airports. But the issue of employment, unemployment, job creation, something which was the pivot around ascension to power, it cannot stand alone. And you are saying that when 1D, 1F is mentioned, there is an element of employment. When there's something, there's an element. So we should go chasing those things to find.
Employment, each 170,000. No, no questions. Manche, look, the president mentioned Attorney General, the orientation of the current Attorney General. Under President Mahama, we had an Attorney General, in fact, a Deputy Attorney General, but it's on record. Amidu said he told him, don't sit here in the office and be determining cases and conceding and yielding and putting the state in a situation of liability. Go to court and defend every claim. Amidu said it. He said he told him, Martin, check out from this behavior. These are all forms. These are forms that corruption can emerge or be created or be consolidated. And
are you suggesting that under your government you have not paid judgment debts?
But that's not, all what I'm saying is that the attitude and orientation of this government is that for every claim we challenge it in court, open court.
It is not every claim that you have challenged.
But
2017 you paid 111 million cedis. 2018 you paid 153.
Yes.
2019 you paid 13.9. 2020 you paid 18.9. 2021 you paid 357.811. 2022 2.8 million.
The point I'm making is that if you compare the number of cases we resolved on the table and those we are fighting, the figures are huge. We are fighting more compared to them. No, you are. Manche. So, look, and again, people have forgotten so soon. Had it not been for this government, I don't want to mention his name. His name has been mentioned, even a song came out. But there were some individuals who got some payments. And it has taken this government to have some retrieved back to chest and even chase them for others. In open court. There were judgments in open court. Manche. So, the orientation of this government, and look, when the ports were being made paperless, I know practitioners, as in those who are into that business, who initially fought and said, oh, let's keep the old. Now with the system, the face-to-face has reduced. There's been some huge savings. And when you look at, how do you call it, those who are even practicing, the importers, they will tell you that now, even in the night, in your house, there are some procedures that you can do on your phone or online. And then, how do you call it, the access to goods is reduced compared to the past. That's not to say that every bureaucracy has been reduced. But the ways to reduce corruption involves putting systems in place. Now, human beings by nature are corruptible. So you always want to put a system where even if the fellow is a criminal, the system will not make it possible for them to perpetrate.
Like SML.
Now, if you look at the PDS, the claims of PDS, by the way, I don't want to mention his name again. We have people who were in the banking sector, who under the electoral regime got money from Bank of Ghana, misappropriated the funds, how do you call it, treated people's savings in a funny way. And under this regime, they've been tried in courts of competent jurisdiction. Monies have been retrieved and they've been jailed. This fighting corruption action, oh, come on. But you see,
the loans that have taken us to where we are.
I'll come there in your loan section.
I said the loans. The loans that have taken us to where we are. People were profiting from them.
Now, by the way, look, this talk that when Ken arranged loans, he got paid and all that.
Not just him.
Oh. Manchester, before Ken came, the previous presidents we had, when they went for loans, there were financial institutions that arranged, they also got paid for services. Hello, Mali. I don't want to mention it. Now, price movement.
Can you just repeat what you said?
Manje, I don't want to provoke you. Part of events.
Of course.
Manje, I think it is important to mention that. In fact, I brought figures
Your
here.
Style of communication must be studied in political communications.
See, I've heard my brothers in the NDC make very strenuous, frantic efforts to tell the Ghanaian that you are suffering because you have a useless Ekufuado government. But Manche, forgive me, there is some level of dishonesty in that particular presentation.
All right.
Our brothers in the NDC, including the flag bearer, and by the way, let me congratulate JM for choosing Professor Jane.
I see.
We're working with intelligence. Now, you see, if it had been someone else, people can argue that